Welcome, all you MCU fans, to this very special presentation of True Believers. We've got a very fun show for you today, but you know what? I cannot do these podcasts alone. And as always, I am glad to be joined by, of course, the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. He might have some fungi growing in some weird places. We don't call him Ted, but we do call him Mr. Kevin Reitzel. Is that a mushroom on your shoulder, Kevin?
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
I'm sorry. I'm a little on edge. I'm a little scared. It's Halloween season, scary movies, werewolves. Went to a creepy Smile movie with my wife. Whew. 'Tis the season, man.
We got a good 5 days before I do any changing, but I found this really cool red stone floating around. So
careful there, bro.
No, we are going to. I am doing well. I am very excited for this particular podcast. We are going to be covering the special Marvel Studios presentation of Werewolf by Night. And I really enjoyed this, Kevin. I'm not even going to try to hide it. This was something that I've been waiting for, I've been excited for, and Marvel delivered. But before we even get into a little Werewolf by Night, yes, sir, you have something you would like to interject?
Does the werewolf got nards? That's the question I have.
If you ask, I went to the source, Monster Squad, so you know. But before we get to talking about a little Werewolf by Night, there's a little something else we need to address first. It's time for Snit, Thwip, and Kapow. Let's get to some MCU news. Mr. Reitzel, we've got some actually theme-related MCU news today. Blade.
Kate Beckinsale? Underworld?
No, you're married now. You can't have a movie wife anymore.
Yeah, I can.
but wait. Didn't she fail your anti-Pete Davidson test?
She was in the corner for a little while on that one.
She had to go through some quarantine, didn't she? After that.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's the news?
Blade. I mean, of course, we have the new Blade with Mahershala Ali. Was due to come out in 2023. I talked the last episode that we had a director change. The director left, and there were some rumors that Sam Raimi might be in line to take over the helm of Blade.
Real quick, is that more fan rumors, or is that coming from other sources?
Some fan rumors, but there's a little bit of smoke there.
Okay.
Sam Raimi really enjoyed his experience with Doctor Strange, and he's definitely open to the idea of coming back to the MCU. But they haven't announced a new director for Blade yet, and now they have announced Blade has been delayed until September 6, 2024. Now,
so a whole year here is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Obviously, Kevin Feige has gone on to say part of this is because they know how important Blade is. They want to make sure they get it right. And I know that if you read out there on the internet, there's been some issues about the script and some things about Mahershala not exactly being thrilled with the direction of the script. I do know that they have brought in one of the writers from Moon Knight to give a rewrite of the script, and I know Mahershala is going to be contributing to some of that as well. Blade's a pretty important movie, I think, for the MCU because of the history of Blade as a movie franchise in pre-MCU, Kevin, and I think they know how important it is. Plus, I think it really ties into the supernatural aspect that Marvel is trying to very much establish here with Werewolf by Night.
Well said. And yes, Blade is going to be the main vessel into introduction of supernatural. See what I did?
Yeah,
there?
I see what you did. Yeah, I see exactly what you did.
Vessel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, but you're right. It's really important for this supernatural thing that the Werewolf by Night is contributing to this introduction, because we've got the cosmic, obviously, and all these other aspects. The mutant stuff starting to trickle in a little bit with the MCU, and because we got a little tease, if I remember correctly, because I haven't seen it in a long time, with Eternals, a little tease into this world as well, with Kit Harington's character and the knife or the blade, right?
The
right?
ebony blade of the Black Knight, and of course the stinger sequence at the end of Eternals where you hear the voice of Blade telling Kit Harington's character, Dane Whitman, do you really want to touch that?
Yeah. So Yeah, so you're right. This Blade is that movie that will usher that part of, you know, the MCU history into, I'm sorry, the Marvel history of Supernatural into the MCU. And like you said, Kyle, it's an important movie to get right. So let's hope they get the script right. Let's hope they get a good director that understands that. And I think Mahershala Ali has proven that he's the type of guy that, yes, if you've got him in your project, you want to work with him. You don't want to piss him off. You don't want to alienate him. You want to make sure the production he has his hands in as well. So I hope that he does get to add whatever he needs to the script and to the character of Blade that he's adding to it.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly important. I really am interested to see, and I think Kevin Feige knows when he needs to pull something back and say, okay, wait a minute here. Let's make some adjustments here. Let's make sure we're getting this right. Other side note, real quick, Kevin. I don't know if you've seen these online or not. Jonathan Majors, who plays Kang, he was in the Loki series. He just did a photo shoot for Men's Health. All I know is he's getting ready to beat down some Avengers because dude is swollen.
Are you saying he's jacked and swole?
No, he's Jack. He's swole. And
are you saying, do you even lift, bro? Hell yeah!
let me put it this way: he makes a certain God of Thunder look tiny in comparison right now.
Okay, I haven't confirmed that yet. I haven't looked at it, so I'll have to see, because that's saying a lot. God of Thunder in the last movie was pretty lots of thundery God.
All I'm telling you, I don't know if I like Ant-Man's chances in Quantumania. That's all
I don't know. Chris was looking pretty swole in the last Thor film. He was, as they say in Vegas, thunder from down under.
Yeah, I wish when he swings that hammer around after he's had a few rounds of Asgardian ale, he would pay more attention and not stir up any more Ians. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah. Thunderstorm, gotcha. Yeah,
exactly. But let's get on to what we're here to talk about. It is October, which means it's Halloween season, and Marvel has given us a Halloween treat. But before we discuss anything with Werewolf by Night, that is right. We are going deep dive into Werewolf by Night. I can't promise that Kevin and I won't get a little hairy. Maybe some changes will be going on with us during this episode.
For our audio listeners, that was the spoiler warning.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yes. So we are going to deep dive. And Kevin, you know what? I'm excited. So let's get started with that deep dive with a little phase 1. Kevin, the monster hunters have gathered. Can you give us some plot description?
Yeah. Phase 1 plot description, give our little first reactions, and we'll touch on the cast as well. And that's going to be kind of fun to do. By the way, the poster for this series out is kind of interesting because it's got an old school feel to it, which I like those old school monster posters and such. And Gael Garcia Bernal is in it, and then it has like the shadow of the werewolf behind him. So if you hadn't seen this before, it kind of feels a little spoilery alone with it. But I don't know if it was a big secret or not that Gael was the actual werewolf by night. So just wanted to kind of throw that out at you. All right, plot description for Werewolf by Night. Episode aired Friday, October 7th, 2022. And I guess you could just call this a Disney Plus TV special one shot, right, Kyle? That's what we're kind of calling. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Following the death of Ulysses Bloodstone, 5 experienced monster hunters, including Jack Russell, are summoned by Ulysses' widow, Verussa, to Bloodstone Manor, where they are instructed to participate in a competitive hunt to determine their new leader, who will wield the powerful Bloodstone. Ulysses' estranged daughter, Elsa, also arrives to compete for the Bloodstone, despite Verussa warning her against doing so. The hunt begins in a large maze on the grounds of the manor, with a captured monster that has been implanted with the Bloodstone as the hunter's quarry. Following an encounter with Elsa, Russell finds the monster Ted, a friend that Russell was searching out for and intended to rescue. While Elsa fights and kills one of the other hunters, Russell leaves Ted to carry out his escape plan and reunites with Elsa while she is hiding in a mausoleum. The two agree to work together to free Ted and obtain the Bloodstone. Ted kills another of the hunters, and Russell destroys the outer wall of the maze so they can escape. Ted flees into the forest after Elsa removes a Bloodstone from him. However, the Bloodstone reacts violently to Russell's touch, indicating that he is also a monster as Verussa and the other hunters arrive. Verussa captures Russell and Elsa and places them in a cage and uses the Bloodstone to trigger Russell's transformation into his werewolf form. The werewolf breaks the cage and slaughters Verussa's guards, but Verussa subdues him using the Bloodstone. Elsa also escapes, kills the two remaining hunters, and stops Verussa from killing the werewolf. The werewolf attacks Elsa but spares her upon recognizing her and leaves the manor. A furious Verussa tries to kill Elsa but is incinerated by Ted, who then leaves to find Russell and Elsa, takes up possession of the manor and the Bloodstone. Good on you, Elsa. The next day, Russell awakens in the forest in his human form, and Ted watching over him, and is pleased to learn that Elsa is safe. There is no post-credit scene, but that was a very nice scene between Ted, this kind of thing that's a man, and Russell just man thing, and Russell just hanging out as buddies.
Hey, Kevin, you want to go for sushi?
No, I don't like sushi, but I see where you're going with it. Oh, he's so cute. Kyle?
We'll talk a little bit more about the man thing. But
okay, that's fine. But can you just answer one question about man thing?
Yeah.
What's that cool like energy head squish thing that he does?
Those who know fear will burn at the touch of the man thing.
Nice. Nice.
Is how
I just wanted to give Man Thing a hug. Was that such a bad thing? I just wanted to hug him. He's so cute.
Yeah, he might be a little smelly, but he's good. He's good.
Kyle, first reactions to Werewolf by Night.
I love this. This was everything I hoped it would be, and even a little bit more. From the decisions by the director Michael Giacchino to how they filmed it using the black and white, and even when they do switch to color, going to more of that like 70s grainy Technicolor kind of look. I loved it. The theming of how it went, the fight scenes, the tension in the air. It played up on all those classic monster movie kind of tropes. I think the only thing this thing was missing was a credit to the gentleman who was the narrator for this, but I needed Vincent Price. But otherwise, this was perfect.
Who do you get now that's not Vincent Price? There's a few people out there that could probably pull it off, but I thought he was good, definitely. So yeah, well, cool. So I saw this with my wife, Erin. She would have loved to have been here, but she's just not feeling well. She's feeling a little under the weather right now. But she of course is the horror expert, and she enjoyed it. She stayed awake. She thought it was interesting, and it was a nice, easy watch for her, quick and easy. But I thought it was a fun little one shot. I kind of at times I forgot we were in the MCU, which I think is a good thing, Kyle. It's it stood on its own. It made you kind of want to learn more about this world of these hunters and these creatures, and how the hunters either interact or you have disdain for each other. I got to give props to the set production, the set designers, the cinematographer, Michael Giacchino. Heard that name before. Known for his wonderful music and composership. Is that a word? Composership? Yeah, dude. This was fun. this is something I wouldn't mind revisiting for Halloween each year, to be honest with you. And I thought the cast was great. We'll get into a little bit more of that, but it also makes me kind of excited to see how the MCU is going to bring in the supernatural to this world.
There's one other thing I want to point out, Kevin, and I want to know if you noticed this, and it's how this opened with the Marvel special. Did it not feel like one of those like old late 70s, early 80s, this is a special presentation, and they had all these like vibrant colors going on and everything like that?
Yeah, no, I get where you're going with. I thought it was actually a throwback to much earlier cinema. When you would, I'm looking back to like the 40s, 50s, and 60s too, because this is the type of thing that you would go to the movies back in the day. A lot of us, people that are older than us, Kyle, would go to the movies and see these serials all together. And what I mean by serial, I don't mean the cereal that you eat, but these little short, movies that are put together in one kind of long movie setting, like, the stuff that inspired George Lucas, the Flash Gordons. You wouldn't just go to the theaters to see one episode of Flash Gordon. You might see two, and then you might see a monster featurette, something like that, or maybe an Abbott and Costello feature or something like that. And that's the feeling I got from this. And even though it was shot in black and white, I felt like the aesthetics and, more importantly, the lighting was done really, really well. And also the way certain characters were dressed really kind of alluded to that, like Azrael, the very tall woman hunter, who, by the way, I got full disclosure, Kyle, I thought that was Doug Jones in drag.
Actually, that actress was in the Hunger Games series.
Yes, I figured that afterwards. That is Eugenie Bondurant, and she was also in something else recently too. I'm like, wait a minute, what was she in just recently that we saw her as well? I can't remember, but yeah, but I thought it was Doug Jones at first. Very tall actress, but the way that how she was all in white, I thought was a great contrast to this black and white thing. So I thought that was very, very cool.
Well, just so you know, Eugenie also has a Star Trek connection. She was on Star Trek: The Next Generation as in the episode Mercenary and Davidian Woman.
Also, I realized where I recognized her from. Aaron and I have just started watching the new Interview with the Vampire series on AMC, and she had a part in, I think, the first episode. Maybe it was the second. I'm like, oh, that's a Werewolf by Night Hunger Games girl.
She plays Miss Carol.
Yes.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah. And by the way, Interview with the Vampire, we've watched the first 2 episodes, and we are hooked.
Yeah, I've heard good things, so I'm going to definitely check that out. One of the things I want to talk about too in our initial reactions, Kevin, because I think I want to hit these up before we get to articles or anything else. 2 things that I really like too. There's a couple of old style tricks they used. I want to talk about the blood splatter on the camera during the scene where Werewolf goes crazy and attacks everybody, and they kind of use that blood splatter to cover up certain violent actions that happen and maulings, because they just see it seems like it's kind of timely placed, and it's an old style trick to kind of keep a rating down. And
also too, the fact that the movie's in black and white contributed to bringing the rating from an R down to a 14 or 13 or whatever. So no, it's 14 in other countries, I think Australia and everywhere. But it's done to show the violence, but yet to tame it down when it's in black and white. Because the blood splatter thing, I love. I've always been a fan of that effect, when, especially in war movies, when you would see like dirt or something being caught on the camera. I know that maybe it's done by accident sometimes, but I like that. I like seeing it on there. It's kind of like, you're in the lens, or you're wearing glasses or protective whatever, and it's getting on you. I've always loved that effect. I think it's great. If it's done well, like you just said, Kyle, by hiding a little bit of violence on there, kudos.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the Werewolf by Night himself. Practical effect, old school style werewolf, not a CGI werewolf. They used a practical effect, and it was definitely the right decision for this. I absolutely love that, and I think it just worked absolutely perfectly for this particular special.
I can't remember the name. Aaron just said it before we got on recording here, Kyle. But they designed the werewolf like the one from the '60s. Was it Quinn? Some actor. I can't remember the name. I think it was 1961. Whatever werewolf movie they did, they kind of designed Gael Garcia Bernal's character Jack Russell in wolf form that way. And you're right. More practical effects in this, I thought was great. I know there was probably a little bit. Obviously, there was some CG in the like the maze and a couple other things, and the when you see on the outside what was in. But a lot of the thing when you say practical effects, that falls well in with the set design, because you see that which is obviously CG. When you go back and you see how gigantic the maze is, and you see all these little things, I kind of got Squid Game flashbacks a little bit, because there was a couple of scenes in Squid Game where they put all these like little tiny towns together and they're forced to move around. But then you get back to the hunting area and the set design and how you could cleverly use certain corners again with different camera angles. I love the mausoleum scene as well. But yeah, I love it. Practical effects, great.
And just for the listeners out there, the movie is The Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed playing.
Oliver Reed, thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, it was. Aaron had shown me a picture of that werewolf, and it's very reminiscent of that, and I like it. It's very cool. I like the fact that he's not American Werewolf in London, like full-on werewolf transformation. He still has human features. With a little bit of prosthetic in the face and the hairy hands and legs, and he moves around more humanoid as opposed to animaloid. I don't know how you say it, because when the guy goes full werewolf in an American Werewolf, which is great. I love that we're getting the old classic style looking human werewolf, and like I said, apes with clothes more scary. And I got to tell you, when you have a werewolf that still has clothes on it from his previous human form, that's scary too.
Yeah, that might be a little more scary, but
yeah.
Let's talk. We mentioned him just a few minutes ago. I want to talk about Michael Giacchino here, Kevin, because
I think it's Giacchino. I think that's how it is.
Giacchino, you are correct.
Yeah.
We know him obviously from all his phenomenal work as a composer and doing these movie scores and other things. This is
real quick.
Really
hold on. Wait. Hold on. He made his name, was it with Rebels, and then he kept getting like elevated to like the movies, because didn't he do like Rogue One?
Well, he
Star Trek. Yeah, he did Star Trek 2009, Rogue One. He did Up, Ratatouille, and then but when it came to Disney Plus and Star Wars, he just kept getting better and better. People were like, "Whoa, who's this guy?"
Yeah, he actually did several episodes of Lost. As far as the music score in Lost, he did John Carter. He did the score for John Carter.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
He also did Fringe, Star Trek Into Darkness, Tomorrowland, Jurassic Park, or I'm sorry, Jurassic World, I should say, Zootopia, Star Trek Beyond. So
okay.
Yeah, he's.
So regarding his directing credits, Werewolf by Night, Star Trek Short Treks. He did one episode, the Ephraim and Dot, in 2019, and then he did a short called Monster Challenge. Those are his only director credits. I'm going to say, give him some more. He's a director that can also compose music and do horror. You know who else does that, Kyle? That's John Carpenter, one of the most famous like horror directors of all time. He can compose his own music and direct a horror film. Give him more horror. Dude, tell you right now, have him do Blade. There you go.
I really liked what he did here. A lot of decisions were his, but I do know this for a fact. I was reading this in an interview article. He actually gives Kevin Feige the credit for including Man-Thing in this short. Kevin Feige's like, well, we can put Man-Thing in here. He loved it. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. We'll talk more about Man-Thing, but I was gonna say, I could really use a plush man thing, but then he's very Cthulhu-like. They're like already out there, but man, give me a plush man thing. He's so cute.
Well,
But I got the feeling he's not really cute in the comics. We'll get about that later.
Yeah. But if you need plush something, I did find something plush you're looking for from one of our other shows. I tagged you in Twitter over the week, and people were walking around with plush Murphs at a convention.
No, Star Trek Prodigy Murph plushies are out there.
Yeah,
nice. Okay,
yeah. So, well, let's talk about. Speaking of plushie, we got a cast to talk about, including a very plushy Werewolf by Night, played by Gael Garcia Bernal. He played Jack Russell, Werewolf by Night. He was phenomenal, Kevin. I really, really liked him in this.
Yeah, I liked how debonair, cultured. I love the little kind of tattoos on his face. I love his introduction when he comes into the room with all the dead prey heads on the walls, and he's just kind of sizing up everything. But he's looking up everything in the wall more than the hunters. I thought that was kind of funny. But he wasn't intimidating, but you knew there was something about him. So yeah.
Well, I liked it too when they're doing the introduction of all the hunters. Oh, you got 56 kills. You've got 56. You've got 37. So here's Jack Russell, over 100. Yeah. You're just like, everybody's kind of like looking at him like, well, who the hell are you? And I just thought that was great. Yeah. But of course, too, we've got somebody who I would have no problem if she wanted to go out with me. Laura Donnelly playing Elsa Bloodstone, probably most famous, Kevin, I'm going to say, for her leading role in The Nevers right now.
I'm going to push back on that because Aaron reminded me of something. There's another show that's a lot more popular than Nevers, and that is Outlander. Filmed in Scotland and based on the books. Ronald D. Moore is one of the main producers of this show. Of course, we know him from the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. She played Jamie Fraser's sister for several seasons and was fantastic. I've actually been to the castle that was the house that she ran in Scotland, and that's how I know her. And yes, she was in the Nevers. I didn't finish that series. I know it's still going. But that is for Outlander fans, that is Jamie Fraser's sister.
Yeah. Well, I loved her in this. I thought she was great as Elsa Bloodstone. I liked how she carried herself. I liked kind of the little edge she had, a little attitude she had in this.
I love that. I love that jacket she had on too. And yeah, she just looked great.
I need to see her teamed up with the Black Widow. I'm just saying that would be a good
hell team yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, the new Black Widow, right?
Yeah, Florence. Yeah, Florence.
Yeah,
but she would be fun with. She'd be fun with Jennifer too.
Yeah. Oh, wait, Jennifer
Walters, She-Hulk.
Oh, Jennifer Walters. Yes. Oh, totally, dude. Yeah. Oh man, that I tell you right now, I would love to see them like just hamming it up over some drinks at that bar. That'd be fun. Yeah. You know, just kind of talking about stuff. But okay. The guy I want to talk about is Joven, the big hunter guy played by Kirk Thatcher. Kyle, I have met this gentleman more than once. I have had my picture taken with this gentleman. I have had an autograph by this gentleman. He is more known as the punk on the bus in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, the I hate you. And of course, he gets Vulcan nerve pinched. And he made a cameo in Picard as the same character, but he has a very long career in not only just acting, but in Muppets. He's worked on Muppets. He is an Emmy Award winner, writer, producer. Grew up in Los Angeles, and he was a writer for Muppets Tonight, and he's done visual effects for RoboCop 2, visual effects for Star Wars Return of the Jedi. This dude has been so busy in the industry. Great guy. One of those guys that you just love to see him talk about his experiences. But for Star Trek fans, he is the punk on the bus.
I was going to ask you, when you met him, was he conscious?
Yeah. Dude, this guy, Kirk is such a cool guy. He comes to Dragon Con every year. He does his own little panel. Totally worth watching. I freaking love this guy. And when I saw him, I didn't recognize him right away because his voice, he was doing the
Scottish
accent.
Yeah.
And I'm going, but I know that face. What is that face? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I love this guy. I'm so happy that he jumped into the MCU in this. I think it's great.
Yeah, he was great. He was great in this. I thought he stole every scene he was in.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun. Really the Hunters were a very interesting group altogether, but you kind of did have a little bit of cannon fodder feeling with them as
yeah,
well,
yeah, and yeah, there's some good death scenes there. The guy that had the poison darts and she uses it against him, cuts his arm off, and then uses against that was great.
Yeah.
By the way, Kyle, if
mhm.
I do die and you throw me in a locked mausoleum, can you also give me the key to get out again, just in case I do get reanimated? I do come alive. I don't want to be stuck in there. Give me some keys. That was a great.
That was one of the.
I love that.
Yeah, that was great. That was one of the better moments of this series.
One more thing, Kyle.
Yeah.
The guy that played Man-Thing, Kerry Jones,
yes. Mm-hmm.
MCU friend, Black Chrysanthemum, played Man-Thing. the big Wookiee from the Book of Boba Fett. For those of you that don't know. So yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. Very cool. Great cast all the way around. Everybody. You know what I liked about it too, Kevin, is even outrageous as some of the characters were, nobody stole something from each other. They all worked off of each other very well. And
I would
really
agree
like that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. But I wanted to ask you though, the gentleman that was the voiceover guy, Rick D. Wasserman, extensive career in voiceover, Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Killing Joke, played Maroni. Were you familiar with who that was?
I was trying to place the voice, and then when doing the research for this, when I saw his picture, I've seen him around because he's got a very unique look. And actually, I saw him recently in one of the this past season of The Flash. He actually was the voice of Prisoner Godspeed, and he really stood out with that. But yeah, he's mostly a voice actor, but I've seen him in interviews on some things like that, and because he's got such a unique look to him, but he's got a great voice, and I mean, he was phenomenal as the narrator, without any question at all. Like I said,
his voice work is so extensive.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, he was even in the Black Panther TV miniseries, Radioactive Man, Igor. Yeah, he's done a lot. So anyway,
Kevin, can you excuse me for a second? Because I think that the bloodstone is kind of glowing over here, so put that damn box down right now.
Oh, this is the Marvel universe. This isn't the Hellraiser universe.
Yeah, okay. Just make that go away. I don't need her in my house.
Okay, yeah.
She does not need to be
I just saw the new Hellraiser movie, and
yeah, notice I said she does not need to be in my studio.
Yeah, this Hellraiser thing, it takes different forms, and I got to watch out for the knife that comes out. So watch out.
Yeah. I have work for you, Kevin, because I believe you have an article for us.
I do. This is our article review segment here. We have Kirsten Howard from, of course, Den of Geek. She's back. Werewolf by Night review, a major turning point for Marvel's Disney Plus formula. Werewolf by Night confirms that when it comes to Marvel's live-action Disney Plus projects, less is more. After no less than 15 Phase 4 MCU projects, Marvel's Werewolf by Night has arrived on Disney Plus as a one-off curiosity, and the special presentation, in air quotes, directed by acclaimed composer Michael Giacchino, is refreshingly free from many of the pressures associated with Marvel's other live-action TV endeavors. There's no mandate to stretch this tale out over 6 to 9 episodes. There's little in the way of reliance on CG or green screen effects, nor is there any urge to connect the plot to upcoming MCU stories. It simply is. Love that. That feels like a smart choice for this entry into the cinematic universe, which has been struggling to find its feet since wrapping the Infinity Saga in 2019. The action centers on Gael Garcia Bernal's Jack Russell, Bless them for unshamefully sticking with the original name, a sweet-natured lycanthrope in the control of his inner monster, and the mysterious Elsa Bledstone, Laura Donnelly, a character who is often unfairly referred to as Marvel Comics' Buffy the Vampire Slayer ripoff. The duo have to fight alongside each other one dark and ominous night when Elsa's father, Ulysses, the head of a monster hunting cabal, get it? The head?
Mm-hmm.
Head? Get it?
Yeah. Head.
He passes away. And sorry, I had to go there. And a competition to vie for his mystical bloodstone gem ensues. Kyle, I'm gonna throw this out real quick. We're gonna talk about the bloodstone itself a little bit, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
its
We have
history.
things to educate you about.
Okay, good. To obtain this powerful and prized possession, one of them must slay Ted, aka Man-Thing, who has been captured in an adjacent labyrinth. Jack is there to sabotage the situation and rescue Man-Thing, aka his mate Ted, but Elsa is there to grab the gem for herself, pissing off everyone who was glad to see the back of her after she cuts ties with Ulysses long ago is just a bonus. Werewolf by Night pulls back on its character history enough to leave you wanting more. For sure, there's exposition here, but it's tantalizing. An illustrated introduction is charming, narrated by notable Marvel animation voice actor Rick Wasserman, informing us that the main MCU is blissfully unaware of what's happening in its shadows, as a cheeky Gore, the God Butcher, nod hints at the timeline. We don't need flashbacks to show that Ulysses Bloodstone was an unbearable prick and a shitty dad. It's written all over Donnelly's face. That's an excellent point, Kyle.
Yeah.
You can see the disdain of her father reanimated for whatever reason. Just give me what I'm owed and I'm out of here situation. I love that. Jack doesn't need to tell us about the one time he was able to remember a friend when he was in werewolf form. We get to imagine those circumstances for ourselves when heartbreak briefly flashes in Bernal's eyes. The pair are perfectly cast in these roles, when Bernthal embracing the silliness of it all while Donnelly exudes the emotional scars that decades of abuse and neglect have inflicted. I want to stop there real quick, Kyle. This is where I felt the chemistry of them working together right away really paid off. And Donnelly's face acting was phenomenal because I picked up all of this without getting a backstory. Your thoughts?
No, I completely agree with you. And the chemistry between them was instant, much like how you felt it between Charlie Cox and Tatiana Maslany on She-Hulk, the last episode with Daredevil and She-Hulk. This didn't have necessarily the sexual chemistry like that episode of She-Hulk had, but these two had a chemistry.
That might have been a little creepy.
Yeah, but it did seem like there was a little bit of an emotional link there in some aspects, like an sympathy of understanding between the two of them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens in this episode of the show is that they talk about how you see Elsa understand monsters and see them in a different light.
Yeah.
Even compared to when she first starts, because you see how she reacts to Man-Thing and Russell cheering into the werewolf. And because I love the scene, Kevin, especially when they're in the prison and she's waiting for him to change, and how you can see her emotions about him kind of change just as they're having that conversation.
Yeah, good point. Because her seeing a hunter of species also transform into what he is, but the conversation that he has with her in the cage saying, look into my eyes so I can recognize you when I transform, because she thinks she's going to die. And seeing that happen, and then when he kind of attacks her, when she approaches him with the bloodstone in her back pocket, and he's just looking at her, and that old school monster look. I love that. Remnants of Lon Chaney a little bit. I love that he sees that, and she carefully puts her hand on his face. I love it. It's great. Well said. She goes on to say in the article, the Spooky Season Project is a definite love letter to an old monster movies, playing with the aesthetic of the classical Universal and Hammer output, and even adding cue marks to the top right corner of the screen. It makes it for a woozy experience with some of the black and white edges bleeding off in a nightmarish but pleasing way. A traditional set and practical effects add to the relatively low-fi nature of the special, at least by Marvel standards. And the camera lingers on Werewolf by Night's bloodshed longer than you'd expect, giving the brawls a real oof factor you don't get with Marvel's more sanitized fight sequences. I thought that was a really good point she just made in the article,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Mhm.
You kind of brought it up too with the blood splatter a little
Yeah.
bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
Definitely.
Marvel definitely
Yeah.
pushed it compared to some of the more stuff because they're trying
Yeah.
to appeal to everything there.
She says, goes on to say, it's hard not to imagine a version of Moon Knight that leaned into this vibe. Moreover, Werewolf by Night constructs a more competent introduction to the supernatural horror side of the comics in 50 odd minutes than the Oscar Isaac starred series manage in 6 expensive episodes. It's the tight standalone nature of Werewolf by Night that really hits different. Perhaps we will see these characters again in the MCU, but this special puts no emphasis on the need for it. Questions that arose before it began streaming, like, quote, does this take place in the multiverse? Quote, is this setting up Moon Knight season 2? Or will Elsa go on to bust Black Knight's balls in the Blade reboot? Seem beside the point, as they should be. It's fun to have time spent in this world, but part of Phase 4's problem has been an often misplaced fixation on what's next, and less focus on delivering a viewing experience that stays with you. Werewolf by Night, with its themes and alienation of reckoning with the legacy of an abusive family dynamic, will stay with me. Many of Marvel's Disney Plus efforts to date and their Phase 4 movies, to be fair, have received mixed reception from fans. But one reoccurring complaint on the TV side is that the stories are either given too much room to breathe or not enough. Werewolf by Night slides into a Goldilocks zone, delivering exactly the right amount. Let's see more of this purposefully storytelling in Phase 5, please. Rating 4.5 out of 5. I think that Kristen Howard hits the note perfectly, especially of what's been happening with the recent Phase, Kyle. We feel like we haven't had enough of stuff. We felt some things have dragged out, big questions, not enough exposition, just enough introducing these characters we may or may not see again. Some are dead, so you won't. But, dude, how much would you love to see a Man-Thing Hulk team up now? But with that said, what do you think of her mentioning how this is kind of like a great standalone thing of not having to worry about what's next?
I think this is something that Marvel they created their own trap in a way because of the success of the Infinity Saga and how everything was. You do feel like you kind of get into a little bit of a formula. But one of the things, Kevin, we've talked a lot about with Phase 4 was, especially as it's gone along, Marvel's been taking more risks with what it's been doing with its characters and different approaches and everything like that. And I think this might be like the ultimate aspect of them taking a risk, taking a chance, and doing something different and having it completely and totally pay off. And I think what you're seeing is the evolution of Marvel, and it's just Phase 4 is a new set of growing pains as they've tried to figure out what direction is next for them, and you're starting to see them figure it out. I know She-Hulk's been a misbag for some, but you and I have both loved that and loved the direction that's taken. This takes a totally different direction, but it works, and they're starting to figure out, I think, too, the little bit more of the flow of TV storytelling, whether we're doing a one shot or whether we're doing a multi-episode series. I think they're starting to kind of get into a little bit of that comfort zone. So I'm really excited for what comes next after we have Wakanda Forever, which I think is going to be spectacular, and then we get into Ant-Man early in February of next year.
You just touched on something that I think I wouldn't mind seeing more of, Kyle. Seeing these one shots
Oh yeah.
If done in a way like this, introducing a set of new characters without too much exposition and throwing them into an adventure, I think is a great way to not get fully wrapped up into a series and wondering how they're going to fix it or end it in 6 to 8 episodes, and wondering and relying, because we've been relying on the end credit scenes too much to, as she would say, what's next. We mentioned after I did the synopsis here that there was no end credit scene, and there was a part of me going like, I wonder if there is one. How are they going to tie this to the MCU? But after watching this and reading this and hearing what you just said, Kyle, I don't necessarily need that. And I think that Kristen's article hits that nail on the head. Like, do we have to have everything tied together and explained? Give us just a fun adventure of these characters that we may or may not know from whatever source.
Yeah. Now, Kevin, I think I've been saying this on several shows we reviewed since we started True Believers with Phase 4, too, is I think what we're seeing here, too, is Marvel is really establishing their different genres within their universe now. You kind of have this comedy thing with She-Hulk. You've had something different with Loki. You've had a little bit more of an action style with Falcon and Winter Soldier. You had some mystery with WandaVision. You had a little bit of supernatural and a little bit of just kind of way out there with Moon Knight, and that's debatable for a lot of people whether that worked or not. But Marvel's really kind of, instead of having, yes, you still have some overall picture with Marvel, but you see them really setting up the different corners of their universe now. And I think what's coming next, Kevin, and especially with like Echo and Daredevil Born Again, is that street level hero. And I think they're gonna, that non-cosmic, non-super Avenger style is gonna be more the grounded, like what the Netflix characters were.
That allows them to really really dive into character development with that as well. I think I think that the street level stuff allows them to really kind of do that as well. But you just kind of reminded me of something, Kyle. So I think the feedback on this is favorable enough to where I think what they should do is start a tradition of a very long-running TV series that now Disney owns, the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series that would come out every year.
We need a Werewolf by Night every year, every Halloween, a Werewolf by Night, one shot.
Not just Werewolf by Night, but use the supernatural scary part to introduce Halloween-themed type scenarios with now the supernatural world involved with other characters. You don't have to always do that. I like the idea of bringing Werewolf by Night. What's his name? Character's name? Jack
Russell.
Jack Russell. I'm fine with him coming back in another Halloween theme, but throw in a little bit of the other MCU characters involved but keep it supernatural. As we've been teased with the narrator that all of this stuff's been going on behind the scenes of our normal MCU heroes that we're seeing doing their stuff. She-Hulk's doing her thing. But let's dive into the supernatural side. Let's dabble that every Halloween special. And then this is where you can introduce supernatural characters from Marvel into the MCU. Then they can pop up in other projects. But let this be the stage they do it on, like Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Let this be a tradition. I would love that.
I also think, like you said, Kevin, they need to expand on this special presentation one shot.
Yeah,
because I think this is a great way for storytelling to bring certain characters in without having to invest in a show. I'll tell you what's popped into my head already. Mike Coulter, who played Luke Cage. Okay, maybe he can't come back for a series. Bring him back in with a special presentation one shot.
Yes!
Luke Cage.
Yes. There you go.
Work these.
Sorry, I got all excited. I knocked out my headphones, Kyle.
Yeah, but I mean, work these characters in that way. We don't. Yeah. Not every character needs a 6 to 8 episode show.
Yeah,
some characters do. Some characters need a little more fleshing out. But
Marvel, this is a way. If you're listening, Star Wars, if you're listening, This is how you make a 50-minute movie minus 5 to 8 minutes of credits work as a one shot. Just concentrate on the characters, concentrate on some working together, working against each other, throw them into a situation that's fun and fascinating and scary. Perfect.
We want more Kate Bishop. Give me a Kate Bishop one shot special presentation. Maybe like a Christmas special with Hawkeye or something. But it's Kate Bishop. A Kate Bishop's Christmas special or something like that.
Yeah. I'll even take a President's Day special. You know, throw in some weird holiday that hasn't been celebrated. I don't know. Just do something fun to have. You don't even have to make it themed. Just that would be fun. But I think this can be a good tradition for Halloween month. Make it supernatural themed within the MCU. And then when you see them maybe together in a MCU movie extravaganza opening weekend, millions of dollars, blah, 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 you can go, remember when they teamed up in that one shot? That'd be awesome.
I could even see more Elsa Bloodstone Adventures as a Halloween one shot thing. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
But Kevin, Bloodstone's kind of gone again. Can you help me out here?
Oh, wrong one. Sorry.
I told you to put that thing away.
Sorry, the Hellraiser box keeps popping in the hand. Sorry about that. Yes, Kyle, we have got Phase 2 trivia. Was that scary?
What's in the box? Let's go back. If you want scary, let's go back to the box. Just bring the box back.
Phase 2 is trivia, guys. I got some for you. So the directorial debut of Academy Award-winning composer Michael Giacchino had previously written the scores for Doctor Strange 2016 and the John Watts directed Spider-Man trilogy for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and was a co-composer on Thor: Love and Thunder. This is Marvel Studios' first Halloween special. Please don't make it the last. Make it a thing. Make it a thing. Among the many creative reasons behind the use of black and white filters in this film, the main purpose was to obscure the blood and gore in order to avoid a TVMA rating. Did that jump at you in that way, Kyle, or were you just kind of like just going with the flow of?
I was just all part of the feel they were trying to get. Yeah. Which Kevin, can I read this next piece of trivia?
Please go.
It's at around the 16th and 31-minute mark. The cigarette burn effect appears in the top right corner of the screen. This used to appear in old films, indicating the change between reels on the film projectors. Love those little touches.
I was just gonna say, I love that stuff. Tarantino likes to kind of throw that type of stuff into. I love that. That was great. The monster named Ted is better known to comic book fans as Man-Thing. I just also full disclosure, not knowing the Marvel comics like you do, Kyle, I had no idea who he was. I first thought Cthulhu. No, this guy's too cute to be Cthulhu. Maybe cute's not the right word, but come on, when the dude gives him a bro hug, and he's there to say I'm helping you, and then they're talking about having sushi later on. How can you not think that's cute? I'm just gonna throw it at you. Okay, he stole my heart. Man-Thing did. At least this version did. While this is the first on-screen appearance of Ted Sallis, aka Man-Thing, in the MCU, he was previously mentioned in dialogue by Maria Hill in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nothing Personal in 2014. Kyle, you watched this show. You were a little more close to it than I was. Do you remember this reference?
I have to go back and rewatch it, but I do remember Man-Thing being referenced.
Gotcha.
In this,
So Australia has a little bit stricter ratings. This is the first Marvel Studios project to be given an MA 15 plus classification in Australia, Kyle. Despite the movie's look and feel of vintage film cinematography, it was actually shot on digital with a black and white filter applied. Very cool, but very basic, right? There you go.
Yeah, very, very basic.
In the comics, the character of Elsa Bloodstone has similarities to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997, though it should be noted that her creators, Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, state that they never watched a whole episode. Coincidentally, Laura Donnelly, who plays Elsa, recently starred in The Nevers 2021, the Josh Whedon most recent TV show. Kurt Thatcher, who played Jovan, previously appeared in the MCU as Punk on the Street in Spider-Man Homecoming 2017. Forgot about that. This was a reference to his whole Punk on the Street bus in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, 1986, a character he later reprised in Star Trek Picard Watcher 2022 and Star Trek Picard 2021. Ted chasing Elsa in the labyrinth in slow-mo mimics the scene of Hulk chasing Black Widow in the Avengers. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel Comics character Man-Thing, a.k.a. Ted Sallis, makes Marvel Cinematic Universe debut in this special. Kyle, are we going to see Man-Thing again?
Well, what, Kevin? Before we talk about if we're going to see him again, this was his Marvel Cinematic Universe debut. But it wasn't his first ever movie. This was not his movie debut.
It was not.
No, we're going to get to that when we come back.
Nice. All right, Kyle. What do we got next?
Well, what I got next is we're going to take a quick break, get everything together because we got a few supernatural characters to educate you on and some things in the world of Marvel Supernatural. But first, we're going to tell you what's going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. Put the box down, Kevin.
Sorry. Just the Hellraiser box.
Ignore the voices in your head and just listen to this wonderful ad for the Fandom Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blooded Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our Fandom Flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
You put the box down, right, Kevin? Box is down.
Yeah, but a little knife came out and pricked my blood, and I feel like I'm going to be visited soon by Cenobites.
Let your lovely wife handle that. She's much more experienced in these kind of matters.
For the record, I saw the Hellraiser movie, and I did enjoy it. The Cenobites are creepy. I find the originals much more creepier, though. I'll explain that maybe in a culture clash, but it's worth watching. So check it out.
Well, Kevin, before they go check that out, how about they stick around with us and let's talk a little phase 3 of True Believers. So we got some plot analysis. We got some characters to talk about, Kevin, because this is a whole new round of characters that I know is brand new for you, my friend.
Yeah. Let's go with this. Let's start with this, Kyle. Give me a brief history of the Werewolf by Night series. Not too long. Just kind of give us, kind of dive us into this and set us up here, because I got some other questions to follow up on this.
Okay, well, I'm going to rewind you back to our days of Moon Knight, Kevin, because if you remember when we talked about the Moon Knight podcast, both our special guest Kat and I mentioned Werewolf by Night a lot because Moon Knight had his first appearance in the Werewolf by Night comic back in the 70s.
That's right.
Werewolf by kind of capitalizing on the werewolf things going on, especially we had American Werewolf in London coming out. So the werewolf thing was kind of big around that time frame. So Marvel's trying to capitalize a little bit on this, trying to get a little bit of monster creatures in there. Dracula was appearing in their comics for a while too. He fought the X-Men, he's fought the Avengers, some things like that.
I'm sorry, Dracula was brought in and fought Avengers? Because I know this has been kind of teased as a possibility. As you as a Marvel fan, how did you feel about this at the time?
They did really good stories with it, and it was actually really one of the best Dracula.
Good writing. Good writing was able to mesh these worlds together.
There was one episode. There was an issue of X-Men where the X-Men fought Dracula, and Dracula was trying to turn Storm into his bride. And really good, really fun story there. But you've used the Jack Russell Werewolf by Night characters, made appearances throughout. Most notably, in recent appearances, he's been tied into a group called the Midnight Suns, which is kind of like the Marvel's own supernatural Avengers. Let me put it that's probably the best way I can explain it. They actually have a video game based on the Midnight Suns coming out here later this year. So Marvel's got some play into the Midnight Suns, and I think they have some plans. Blade is a big part of the Midnight Suns. The Ghost Rider is a part of the Midnight Suns. Heck, Man-Thing is even a part of the Midnight Suns. So
okay, gotcha.
So that's kind of, Werewolf by Night's been kind of here and there making appearances. Sometimes he's very vicious. Sometimes he's got where Jack Russell has actually kind of gotten control of the werewolf thing, kind of like the Hulk aspects there. But he's been a fun little character, throughout, making guest appearances here or there. Really hasn't held his own book since the late 70s, early 80s. But it's a great character, and it worked perfectly for what they just did with this short, Kevin. But I know there's a character you're really dying to know a lot more about.
Man-Thing.
So, Kevin, I'm going to tell you something about Man-Thing. Man-Thing might be one of the most powerful creatures in the MCU. I mean, legitimately, like, massive power level.
Well, I was asking you about how Man-Thing did that weird, like, energy, crushy, heady body thing with a couple of the unfortunate people in this episode. It felt like he almost is from outer space or something. I don't know. So what's his origin, man?
So the origin of Man-Thing, he was a scientist. His experiment was taken over by people who were trying to take advantage of it. He goes in to destroy it. Things go wrong. He injects himself with this serum that he's developed. It goes wrong. He becomes one with the plant life of the Florida Everglades and becomes the Man-Thing.
Hold on. Before you continue that, the Marvel's version of Swamp Thing?
Yeah. Basically, here's even where it gets a little more crazy. The same creators here we're talking about for the most part. That created Man-Thing also created Swamp Thing.
Okay, all right, cool. But they're giving Man-Thing a little bit of a twist here. I like this.
Yeah. Here's the biggest thing is obviously Swamp Thing is probably way more famous than Man-Thing because Swamp Thing had the classic movies from back in the day and a TV show and some other things like that. But Man-Thing, here's the thing with Man-Thing. There was a writer named Steve Gerber, and he was notorious for writing a little bit of oddball stuff. And in the MCU, Kevin, he was a big writer for Man-Thing. He was also kind of the guy who really established what we know as Howard the Duck.
What?
Yeah.
I love that.
Steve Gerber kind of wrote the oddball characters for Marvel. And what some people
was this done by design? Was this something that he'd like to do?
Yeah,
or did he have like the drawing room or writing room off in the corner, and they're like, hey, give it to that guy in the corner?
A little bit of both, but it kind of worked out. Steve Gerber definitely gave us some of the more interesting characters in the Marvel comics, as far as a little bit of oddballness to him. But here's the thing about the Man-Thing, Kevin. This is where it gets very interesting. The Man-Thing is very much tied into nature. He's actually incredibly powerful. But when you talk about the thing that was burning everybody, the Man-Thing has this acid, and that kind of runs through him that is produced by fear pheromones that people put out. Hence, the saying, "People who know fear will burn at the touch of the Man-Thing."
So he feeds off on their fear,
Yeah,
and that makes him stronger.
correct. He becomes that. He starts producing this acid that burns these people.
Interesting. Okay, I like that.
But here's where it gets where, Kevin, I have a very strong suspicion you will be seeing much more of the Man-Thing popping up within the MCU, because the Man-Thing in Marvel Comics is also the protector of the nexus of realities, which is based.
That sounds familiar.
Well, we got multiverse going on, different realities, different things going on here. What if, kind of the thing. There's a magical spot within the Florida Everglades in the Marvel Comics, and the Man-Thing has become the protector of this nexus of realities. And a lot of people are, at different times, are like trying to find this nexus, and they come across the Man-Thing, and it doesn't go quite so well for them. So, but
interesting. So, from what you know, obviously Werewolf by Night is his buddy.
Yeah.
Who else is he teamed up with, like he's been friends with?
Elsa Bloodstone. That actually is.
We'll get into that.
Blade. There's a character also in Marvel Comics, kind of a mystic. His name is Brother Voodoo. So they're Doctor Strange. Heck, Man-Thing even had a team up with Spider-Man.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, Man-Thing's kind of he's kind of one of those things where a lot of people in the MCU universe know he exists. They just don't talk about him much. Really is.
Why is that?
Just because they kind of know how powerful he is, and let's just leave the Man-Thing to his own thing here, because we really don't want to even risk upsetting him. It's not a good idea. Okay. He's a little too powerful. But
is there some irony that the only man that can calm him down is a werewolf that also goes all crazy?
No, there's a little irony to that. There's been some other characters who've been able to have a psychic bond with the Man-Thing, so they actually know what he's thinking and things like that. So they've had that. But I'm pretty sure we've got more Man-Thing coming in the MCU in one way or the other, whether it's just brief little appearances in some things. But I think he's going to have a big effect.
I got to ask you a question. Since you're familiar with the comics and his shenanigans, were you happy with the way he was portrayed in this?
Absolutely. First of all, looked absolutely perfect. I mean, they nailed the look of the Man-Thing. And I think that they had a little fun with him. I loved the whole line where it's like, "I've told you to stay out of this kind of trouble." Jack's kind of scolding him. But yeah, I mean, because that's the Man-Thing is simple thinking. He's simple. It's not an idiot creature, but he's just simple. He's naive. He knows it's just like a primordial instinct of what he needs to do.
I like the scene when Elsa was instructed by Werewolf. Jack, that's his name?
Yeah, but Jack Russell.
You're Jack Russell. Calling him Ted, and how she approached him, and then when she said Ted, he got disarmed a little bit.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was quick on her feet enough to know to use that cool little weapon that she grabbed out of the mausoleum that had the little pincher claws on it to pull the bloodstone off of him. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, everything with the Man-Thing was perfectly done in this, and I really do think we're going to see the Man-Thing pop up in one way or the other, maybe some oddball ways and maybe some very interesting ways.
Elsa Bloodstone.
Okay, so when you talk about Elsa Bloodstone, you obviously have to talk about her father, Ulysses Bloodstone. In the comics, Ulysses Bloodstone was a famous monster hunter. The Bloodstone was actually implanted into his chest.
Oh, okay.
And what happens with Ulysses is he's eventually killed because the Bloodstone in his chest gets shattered, which makes him age, makes him lose the abilities that he got from the Bloodstone, which killed Ulysses Bloodstone. Now, the Bloodstone went on to actually be part of a very famous Captain America story called the Bloodstone Hunt, where Baron Zemo, a name you should know, Kevin.
Yeah, he knows how to dance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he went after to collect the pieces of the Bloodstone to try him get that power from him. Well,
wow, little tie into the non-supernatural MCU. I like that.
yeah.
Or
Obviously
Marvel.
Captain America foiled it, and the Bloodstone itself has never really been completely reformed since. However, Elsa Bloodstone is the daughter of Ulysses Bloodstone, and she's inherited because she was born while her father had the Bloodstone within him. She's gotten some powers from that, and she's also been able to find a small piece of the Bloodstone which she wears in a choker around her neck.
The picture, by the way, that you have chosen to put in the notes here, Kyle, the actress that plays Elsa, that is a picture of her as Jamie Fraser's sister from Outlander. So
Yeah. But when in the article it talks about Elsa being kind of a ripoff of Buffy, no. Elsa, if you're gonna compare Elsa's personality, it's probably closer to a Faith as far as doesn't give a crap. She's there to do what she needs to do.
The character named Faith in Buffy, played by
if you're going to
Liza
compare
Dushku.
it to do a Buffy comparison, probably closer to that. But shades of gray, but she's not a villain. She's going to try to do the heroic thing. But one of the things that's in the comics that's happened is Elsa Bloodstone is like, I will be the last of my line. I will never have a child. I'm the ending of this bloodline. This bloodline ends with me, but I will take out all the monsters before I do that.
Because she understands the burden her legacy has, I guess. So with that said, Kyle, without the help of any outside supernatural stones or whatever, is she just an efficient fighter, very smart? She doesn't have any other powers?
It depends, because there's been a few different comics that have given her some different things. She has some enhanced speed, some endurance, a little bit of enhanced strength, again, because of picking up some of that power from being born while her father possessed the Bloodstone.
I see. Okay. So she's got a little something. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Probably I would say maybe Slayer level. Probably like a little bit of Slayer level type things. But she's a badass. That's the easiest way. She's a badass. She's got a temper. She's going to be out pounding the bars more than she's going to be doing the upstanding society thing. So
you mentioned about maybe her having her own one shot as a Halloween supernatural thing, and you mentioned possible team ups with the new Black Widow or something like that. Just speculating, how else would you like to see her introduced? And with someone, Blade maybe? Did she fight against Blade, or what about that?
No, she's worked with Blade in the past. I think that would be intriguing. If they ever do something with Ghost Rider, she could put her with Ghost Rider as well.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So again, Marvel's just, I think, tapping the keg of the supernatural world that is in the MCU, and I really think they're very excited about a lot of the possibilities. And I think I've read some articles with Kevin Feige, and I think he's excited and has some real plans for the supernatural side of the MCU. I think it's going to grow a lot more. I mean, it's been interesting to hear the names they've been throwing out for Ghost Rider, and they're not small names, Kevin. Norman Reedus, Keanu Reeves, and there's one person who said, I want to be Ghost Rider. If I'm going to be in the MCU, this is the one character I will play, and that is Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be my first pick, just because I'm kind of partial to his movie Drive. But yeah, so okay, Kyle, these next two topics, I'm just going to combine them into one because I think they're very close enough and related. So let's have the supernatural discussion as it's being introduced to the MCU. How do you feel about this introduction of it? And is there something that you want to see it done in a way that it feels like a natural introduction? Because the reason why I'm bringing this up is that because this is such a standalone movie, and they tell us in the beginning with the narrator that yes, there's these other heroes that are out there, and under the shadows, this is what's going on. We don't see it, meaning we don't see them combined and working together yet. So how are you feeling that they're doing this, and how do you want to see it jump into the rest of the MCU with the other characters?
So For right now, I want to see it. If they're going to continue and focusing on this, I want to see it stay small. I want to see it be in the shadows where you don't see a lot, because I think once Blade hits, that's the game changer for it.
So you're
Because
saying
Blade,
it should stay in its lane because that's where we could have the most fun with it until
yeah,
Blade. All right, monsters, come on in.
yeah. Basically, Blade probably. I could see where Blade would open up the bigger MCU to what's going on in this dark.
So we want to
dark
see
corner.
some opening acts. Like this is like the opening act of the big festival concert that Blade is heading, headlining. We want to see some other opening acts kind of have fun and do their thing before they open up the floodgates, so to speak, or the floodgates.
Because the fun thing about the Marvel Supernatural side is this too, Kevin. You've got characters that we have already established in the MCU that you could tie in. You could tie Moon Knight into this very easily if you wanted to get Moon Knight going in some different directions. He kind of fits within the supernatural aspect as well.
Okay.
As you grow
as
you grow it a little bigger and it kind of starts bleeding into the MCU, if they start establishing the street level like they're talking about with Daredevil, with Echo, with Spider-Man, because that is the big talk, is that Spider-Man. Right now, there's been some rumors floating around that Spider-Man 4 is coming, and it might have some tie-ins to Daredevil Born Again, as far as maybe continuing some storylines that happen in Daredevil Born Again.
I'm not seeing the connection to Supernatural here yet, though.
Oh, but no, let me explain to you. If you're establishing these street-level heroes that aren't like in this big cosmic thing, every once in a while, these street-level heroes get pulled into those dark corners.
I see where you're going with it. Okay, I'm with it. I'm driving with you.
Come on. I would love to see Spider-Man hanging out with Man-Thing.
That conversation. Okay, first of all, Tom Holland's Spider-Man having a conversation, a respectful conversation with Man-Thing. I could watch a whole episode of television with that. That would be funny.
Yeah.
So he would be asking the funny questions that we would want to know about Man-Thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I could definitely see that happening, and that's how I kind of want to see it. Bring it in slow. I think you could eventually build to what I was talking about earlier, Midnight Suns, and do something there, but bring it in slow. You don't have to make it an Avengers thing. Let it be its own thing, and just let it kind of be on the outskirts of the main Marvel universe.
Has he worked with Hulk before?
Man-Thing, I think there was some crossover, so issue or two where the Savage version of the Hulk was in the Everglades. So
the reason why I bring that up, how there's that weird contractual thing with the Hulk right now, where they can't make a standalone Hulk film, but he can be in an ensemble movie because of the rights that was it Universal? I don't remember who has that one.
Yeah.
I would love to see Man-Thing thrown in there with the Hulk and maybe a couple others. To bring the Hulk into the Supernatural. Can you imagine Banner, Mr. Science Man, having to be thrown into a supernatural world? Because he's still freaking out that he was on another planet. Now he's having to now in She-Hulk. We know he's heading back to that planet. That would be fun. Come on.
Well, come on. He's already had a little bit of supernatural interaction with the Ancient One in Avengers.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of which, too, Wong has been part of the Midnight Suns before.
Of course. All right. Mr. Wong connecting
He's everywhere.
all.
He's everywhere. But, Kevin, before we wrap up our conversation here, I want to address something that I brought up here. I promised the listeners I would bring in that. While Man-Thing was on our screen for Werewolf by Night, it's not the first thing he's ever been in.
You teased that earlier, and I almost forgot about it. Now I really want to know. Hold on. Before you tell me, because I literally don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You saying he's been in the MCU? He's
not in the MCU. But in 2005, Man-Thing had his own movie.
Did he?
R-rated, hour and 37 minutes. Directed by Brett Leonard. The writers were Steve Gerber, the aforementioned Steve Gerber, and Hans Rodenoff. The cast includes Jack Thompson, Rachel Taylor, who you might remember from the Transformer movies and the short-lived Charlie's Angel remake. And Kevin, I know you should know who this is. Alex O'Loughlin from Hawaii Five-O, the new Hawaii Five-O.
And Moonlight.
Yeah.
Moonlight, the vampire TV series he
Yeah.
did, where he was a vampire, but he was a PI.
Yeah. So this movie came out in 2005. I don't even think it actually made the theaters. It has an IMDb rating of 4.0 out of 10. The description is: an agents of an oil tycoon vanish while exploring a swamp marked for drilling. The local sheriff investigates and faces a seminal legend come to life, Man-Thing, a shambling swamp monster whose touch burns those who feel fear.
Oh, now I kind of want to see it.
I figured that would do it for you.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to search in Amazon, don't you?
Oh, yeah. It might be on Tubi.
Everything's on Tubi.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's cool. Good to know. I'm wondering if that movie's going to get some run now that he's made his MCU appearance.
Maybe it'll show up on Disney Plus.
Do they have the rights for it? I don't know.
I don't think they do, but I don't know who.
Holy crap, Kyle! I just did a search on Amazon here. Man-Thing DVD. $61.99.
Yeah, it's been out of print for a while.
Right? Yeah. Jeez, I'm sure there's probably a cheaper version somewhere else, but yeah, I got to see if that's streaming. That's cool. Cool. Thank you for the tip on that.
Yeah, no, I figured that would be right up Kevin's video vault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. I haven't searched the internet, so I don't know what that Man-Thing looks like, but I'm curious now.
Yeah, you could go search some images when we're done with the podcast, Kevin. But any other final questions before I take us into the?
No, man, that was a good discussion. Well done on the backstory, and I gotta say I'm really excited about the idea of Marvel doing more one shots like this. Just this was done very, very well. And
this was phenomenal. Yeah, I agree with you. This is phenomenal. It was done incredibly well and just thoroughly enjoyable. But you know what, guys, before we get out of here, let's just close out by telling you where you can find not only this great show, but all the great shows of the Fandom Podcast Network. And it starts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. You can also find us, of course, on our YouTube channel. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. We love being able to provide both audio and video for all you wonderful fans out there. Also, too, you can find us on our Facebook group, Fandom Podcast Network, or the True Believers Facebook group, where we keep you updated on all the going-ons on the MCU. Kind of coming up to a point, Kevin, though, where we're going to have a little MCU break here shortly. She-Hulk's only got one episode left. We got Wakanda Forever, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, but that's really it for the rest of the year on the palette for the MCU.
We've been busy. We've been giving some love, man. If you haven't already, please go back and check out what we've been doing with She-Hulk. We've had a lot of fun with that. And, of course, as you mentioned and reminded me earlier, that we had a great run with Moon Knight, and Kat is a big Moon Knight fan. So, yeah, this is cool. I'm excited.
I just so you know, I do have my ticket for the season for the premiere night for Wakanda Forever. I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm going to.
That's coming up soon, right?
You'll be in Australia, I believe, when it comes out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. No, it was late November, right? November 21st.
November 11th.
November 11th. Actually, that comes out 2 days before I leave for Australia.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, but I'll have to check it out. So,
of course, too, you can also find us on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network or on Twitter at FanPod Network. You can find me, Kyle, 5 days out from changing, as long as I stay away from that redstone over there and Kevin doesn't keep messing with that box he's got. But you can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleKindaFurry. Actually, it's AKyleFandom, but
careful how you use furry.
Yeah, exactly. This is true. This is
anything true. There.
Well, but Kevin, really, I know that your real Twitter handle is at Wolfman Has Nards.
Yes, Wolfman's got nards, and Jack's got some nards. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. And of course, you can find me in the True Believers Marvel MCU Facebook group there. Love sharing Marvel stuff there. So make sure you check it out. And of course, you can find me on Facebook.
Yep. And two, you can find us on all the major podcast catchers out there, whether it's iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes, Spotify. We're on all of these, plus a few others. We just hope that you're out there. And like I said, we hope we're feeding your ears with some very good podcasts. Got a double dose of True Believers, though, Kevin, because we got, as at the time of recording this, which is Wednesday, October 12th, we're only a few short hours away from She-Hulk episode 9, the season. I think it's the season finale. What do you listeners out there know? It felt like the season finale, right?
Yes. Yeah, we got the season finale happening. It's going to be interesting how that ends up, and if we're going to see Marvel or we're going to see a certain, Daredevil. Who knows? I'm curious to see where it ended up. I'm just this show is just so fun and funny, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and so we'll be back with another episode of True Believers covering everything that is the season finale of She-Hulk. And you know what? That ride's been a ton of fun. Werewolf by Night, absolutely phenomenal.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you already have. So
yeah. We hope you have. So are we giving you quite a bit of spoilers and you don't really need to go watch it, but go watch it anyway because it's phenomenal. But for now, as always, to our wonderful True Believers out there, Excelsior, and as the moon comes through the clouds, I'll say it before it's too late, make ours Marvel.
Wolfman's got nards.